60s music.
Yes, a little 60s music for you. So this must feel like home to be on this lot.
I arrived here at age 26 in 1966. Not that long out of South Dakota. I drove all the way across the country from Atlanta. I've been hired by NBC News. A very, very exciting time in my life. And in those days, this studio, Dean Martin in one corner, Sonny and Cher in another corner. I remember coming down to do the news one night, and there was this attractive little kid sliding down the hallway, and it was Michael Jackson. Johnny Carson hanging out around the corner, John Wayne walking through the hallway. And when I'd come in to park my car, very often my spot would be occupied by this large gold Chrysler with Bob Hope on the license plate. And I quickly determined that he might have been a little more important to NBC than me, so I'd say, Bob, take my place. But it was a very exciting time.
Oh, I'll bet. So you write the book, and it's basically about the 60s. Is that to you the most important decade or era, or do you?
Well, it was an important decade for this country and for the world, for that matter. And for me, as someone who grew up as a child of the 50s, and then to be a reporter in the middle of the 60s, when all of the conventions of the time in which I was growing up were suddenly being challenged. The world was turned on its ear. And then we had that traumatic year of 1968. Dr. King was assassinated, Bobby Kennedy was assassinated, Lyndon Johnson was forced from office, we had the Chicago riots. The urban inner cities of this country went up when Dr. King was assassinated. Richard Nixon, who had said, "You won't have me to kick around anymore" in 1962, suddenly is the leading candidate for President of the United States. And at the end of that year, the Apollo 8 mission went to the moon to circumnavigate it, to get ready for the moon landing. And as they emerged from the backside of the moon, for the first time we'd ever seen that, they looked out, and into this void they saw this precious planet called Earth. In that inky void, with a beautiful white filigree of clouds and the deep blue of the oceans, the great brown swaths of desert and the deep greens of the wilderness areas. And Jim Lovell, who is in this book, told me, he said, "I realized that's our spaceship, and we're all on this together in some fashion. We ought to think about that."
We got to remember that today. That's very important to remember today. Yeah, it's interesting to hear a perspective like that. And it is so important to remember that. And now we have a war like we did in the 60s, and are we repeating? Do you see it the same?
Well, there is an echo chamber. There are some similarities, but there are great differences as well. There was a draft on in the 60s. There's no draft now. I think that the protest would be in the streets now if there were a draft on. One of the differences, of course, between now and then is that there's a voluntary army. And what I say to a lot of audiences wherever I go, however you feel about this war, and there's good reason to be very unhappy with it because so many promises and premises were either broken or not fulfilled. You can't forget that families have sent their children to war.
Yeah.
And nothing is being asked of the rest of us in terms of sacrifice. So I hope that there will be a personal connection from citizen to citizen, regardless of policies. Because as I go to Walter Reed or to any of the other places where these wounded veterans come back, I realize they come from small towns, working class families, many of them with just high school educations. And they need to know, however you feel about the policies, that we recognize their service. So that's important. I
agree. And I think people do support everyone who's over there and the families that you know, you're covering all these huge stories. I'm listening to you just ramble and reel off what you've been covering. This is what I was doing in the 60s. I had just joined the Brownies. And so I was getting ready.
I think I saw you at Haight-Ashbury in that very outfit.
Yes, I was, I was burning my training bra. And so let me ask you this question. Maybe it's unfair and you don't want to share, but who do you think, you get a feeling who our next president is going to be?
You know, I get asked that all the time, obviously, and I remind people that in this stage in the presidential process, my family and my friends are tired of hearing me say this, I believe deeply in what I call the UFO theory. The unforeseen will occur. It's very hard to know now. We're still 2 months away from the Iowa caucuses, followed rapidly by New Hampshire and Super Tuesday. There have been a lot of candidates who thought they were going to be the President of the United States, including Howard Dean not so long ago, Edmund Muskie before that, and they stumbled or circumstances changed. But I do think that this is going to be one of the most important presidential elections of our lifetime. And whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or a libertarian or whatever your political beliefs are, you owe it to yourself and to your grandchildren to get involved this time, because it is a reflection on all of us. And politics can be very exciting and can be very rewarding. And this is one of those elections that should be in bold print at the front of future history books, and it'd be nice to be a part of it.
Yeah, well, hopefully everybody will vote it, you know, as we can see, every vote counts. So, all right, you think the country's ready for a woman, though? Do you think that Hillary could?
I absolutely think that you know, one of my Republican friends said this is foolish to be saying that the country won't elect a woman. If she gets nominated, there's a 50-50 chance that she can get elected. Same thing with Barack Obama. Can a black man be elected president of the United States? As you go around the world and around this country, for that matter, we now have a black governor in Massachusetts. You have a woman governor in Kansas, which is a very conservative state, and she's a Democrat, a Democratic woman governor in Arizona, another conservative state. The chancellor of Germany is a woman. The president of Chile is a woman. So I think a lot of this there's a certain amount of mythology. I think it's less about Hillary's gender than about the kind of strong feelings that she generates, and that's something that she still has to overcome.
Right.
And no one knows that better than the Clinton campaign.
Right. All right, well, it was so nice meeting you. I'm such a fan. I just think that
it's great to be here. My daughters are going to be so relieved. They're such huge fans of yours, and they were terrified that I was going to attempt to dance. And
oh, come on!
no,
Come on!
no.